I was 13, and a friend of my mum's came out. I'd always done the paper round, and she was the highlight. And my mum wasn't in. I just kind of stood there, and there was the sunlight behind her. And I looked at her, and I said, "Oh, come in." And it was weird, because she knew straight away what was going to happen, and so did I. And it did. Let me put it this way: the abiding model of the universe that I'm aware of is the sense in which every split second of every day we're constantly bifurcating. The idea of infinite parallel universes where everything that can happen will happen is one that I feel an instinctive affinity with. I feel a constant sense that I'm a bifurcating, multiplying self, and that parts of me are kind of forever in limbos of other universes, and often that those parts are having a more interesting time. So there's a sense in which, in a way, both those things are contained in that everything does happen, but I don't have access to it all, and that I'm only a part of the whole. So, and I also believe, almost kind of willfully, that that there is a sense of free will. I fought when I was a teenager to get away from the idea that that I was in fact God. I was God in the universe, and I was observing myself in an ongoing experiment of which I wasn't fully aware. And that's a strange kind of solipsism, because of course, well, one of the consequences of solipsism is that you think, well, if I'm God, why did I deal myself this hand of cards? And the other one is, why then, if you believe that you're God in the universe, do you still hesitate to do things if you think you've got this kind of omnipotence? Anyway, the point being that to break out of this, I deliberately took a job as a door-to-door salesman, because I wanted to imagine that there were things that I hadn't created, and that if I did something as random as that, I really wouldn't know what was behind that door. There's no sense in which I could have had agency in this. So I did, and I had a really, really weird time, and it left me more confused than ever. There's a few. I really like the rooster, because I like the boldness of it. I always like the latest thing, actually. I always like the latest thing. That's the bottom line. Whatever I see shardcore as a kind of process, as much as a kind of set of finished work. So I like to see what's going to come next and what's just come. Or is it kind of lying shattered on the ground, having cut your foot when you dropped it?
Or is it 2 half-pint glasses, each half full?
Well, that's right. An endless bar with glasses all half full of beer. None of them yours to drink. Let me put it this way. I think it's a question worth anyone's time. I think there are lots of ways to think about that question, and I think all that thinking is worth doing, not least because exploring that question often requires a kind of looking for a kind of knowledge that is not scientific knowledge. And so it raises the question of, is that a chimera? Is the idea that there is knowledge that is ineffable, that is absolutely knowable, and you absolutely know it, and yet you cannot use reason to justify it? Is that the case? I think that's part of the question. I have memories of beaches. I have memories of walking all the way down to the sea that was going out to wash my hands before having a picnic, walking all the way back and tripping over just in front of my mum and getting my wet hands covered with more sand, crying. I remember that would have been about 6, maybe, toddling along, and then toddling back. I think it's a lot deeper than you ever think. It's you can think you've gone down it, but there are a lot more twists and turns. And the thing about going down the rabbit hole is you can't turn around. If you're going to come out, it's because you've found the thing at the other end. And that's an interesting gamble to take. If I was a girl, would I go out with myself? No, I wouldn't. Of course I wouldn't. What am I saying? I wouldn't go out with myself for the same reason that I wouldn't want to go out with a girl who was like me. Because I believe that people can be whole only when they have someone else, and that someone activates a side of them and supports other sides of them. That you are not incomplete, but just can be fully activated in that yin-yang. And that yin-yang means that you're not looking for someone just like you, because those are two Lego bricks that don't stick together. I'm wearing a leather thong, which isn't mine. I borrowed it, which was perhaps a mistake. And I'm wearing those studs I've had installed in my thigh, which is slightly problematic. I thought they'd be more comfortable to sit with, but they're a little awkward. And I'm wearing a fedora, which is my hat of the day, and the nipple clamps. I had this long sort of dreamlike sensation for a period of time that I'd been brought up by kind of Dutch art terrorists in a commune in a place called Centrale, which was a kind of fusion of the Low Countries and France, which existed, and I was in there, but this was one of these parallel universes, and I was somehow straddling these two which had split, and that at a certain age I slipped out of that one and was just left in this one. And there's this ghost of a parallel world that I grew up in. And they gave me a nickname there, and I don't know why, I don't know what it means, which was the Lowly Zoo. And so I guess I would rename myself the Lowly Zoo. The carcasses of my victims. I want to be like you. Oh, there's no, that is not a serious dilemma. You saved the life today. And part of the reason is that you can't apply these kinds of mechanistic systems. If there's a human urge, if there's a good human urge, it is to preserve life and to help others. It's the single most decent gesture and decent impulse. And so you act on that impulse and you foster that impulse. I had an orange juice, cereal. I added some diced nuts, cranberries. I had a pot of coffee. I had some smoked salmon and scrambled egg. I had chocolate biscuit. I had more coffee. I had couscous, new potatoes, beans, peas, some chicken. I had more biscuits, more coffee, some water, and then I had a chicken Cajun rice dish, and some wine, and some more wine, and a square of chocolate. I was talking to somebody the other night about this. I have, and not so much now, but I used to have very vivid dreams, and I regret not having as vivid a dreams as I used to have. And my childhood memories are as much about dreams as they are about the real things that actually happened. One the thing I was saying to him was that I had dreams. It's not so much that I have recurrent dreams, but the dreams that I've had exist in this same space, this same incredibly complicated warren of interconnected places, like a kind of tube map of worlds that I know how to move between, even within the dreams. And I recall, even within the dreams, other dreams that happen there. It's like a kind of evolving fantasy story in my own dream world. And I remember all of that. It's funny. I've always thought a lot about being invisible, but not so much about inhabiting someone else's body. I think, what would I do? I'd put it through the ringer. Knowing that I could take off the coat at the end of the week, you're not going to sleep, are you, for one thing? And you're gonna be practically ODing by the time you get to the end of the week. Your body's going to be a kind of masochized, drug-addled, totally fucked wreck.
So
and
then taking on someone else's body, you choose to destroy it.
Absolutely, yeah, and then just hand it back at the end of the week, and then get mine back, which would be in an even worse state, probably.